you can still get your need of touch through yourself. And I think the more that we hone in on that skill and become masters of giving our touch to ourselves, we'll start coming from a place of fullness.
Happy people, and welcome to the Happy Curator podcast. I'm Juliet J. Harris, aka the Happy Curator. At the moment, it's quite difficult to meet people to experience bliss in our lives if we aren't already with someone. COVID is definitely not helping our sex life. With that in mind, I asked my special guest, Lisa A. Rizzoli, to join me to talk about Tantric self-care. I started getting interested in Tantric sex a few years ago, and it has taken my sex life to a whole other level. Lisa is a certified Tantra Educator and founder of Tantra Sacred Loving. She has taught Tantra all over the world and is now focusing on her workshops online. She helps adventurous seekers discover the joys of living an orgasmic, blissful life free from guilt and shame by weaving ancient wisdom with modern technologies. I'm hoping that this conversation will open your senses and that will give you the much needed self-love that we need. Hi Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today for a conversation on self-care in the tantric world, basically, because you are a certified tantra educator. So I'm pretty sure that you've got a lot of knowledge when it comes to telling us how to take care of ourselves in the very erotic, sexual energy kind of way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here and for getting to join you in our conversations. It's been just a joy. I've been so excited this whole week to come on and share with you and your listeners about, some of these tantric experiences and the whole idea of touch and talk a little bit more about touch, because in this day and age, like where we're at with this quarantine, so many of us are by ourselves.
Tell me about it.
Right. And so what are you doing for your need of touch? Because that's one of the things, as human beings and primates, touch is actually one of our needs. We need touch. And it's for us to thrive and be creative and prosper, and all those things, touch is so vitally important. So what are people doing for touch? And early on when the quarantine first started, my co-teacher Kevin Brizendine and I both did this. We did a series of talks about touch and what you could do for yourself and self-care around that. So I'm going to share some of that with you and even go a little bit more. So we'll have fun with this.
Yes, this is exciting because, as you say, a lot of us are single. It's been pretty interesting on that side of things. When you go on dating apps. Well, because, we've got to talk to people somehow. And at the moment, you can't really go out and meet people. So we've got to find a way to meet men or meet women, whatever side you are on, doesn't matter. And yeah, this is something I've noticed. Everybody is craving that touch. I'm a hugger. So for me, just that is killing me. Forget the rest. Just, because hugs, as we know, are very good for you. If you're feeling low, then it will just perk you up. So
right, it releases a lot of those brain chemicals, that cocktail within our brain that feels so good, the serotonin, the oxytocin. Oh, it's so good. And what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing about it now? How are we taking care of ourselves? So that's really something that is vitally important. And I hear people's resistance. I hear them with their pains of, but it's not the same. Me touching myself is not the same as another person. Well, of course it's not. It's totally different. And you can still get your need of touch through yourself. And I think the more that we hone in on that skill and become masters of giving our touch to ourselves, we'll start coming from a place of fullness. And this is something that's so important, because when we come out of this thing, there's going to be a lot of needy people out there. There's going to be so many, and I'm probably one of them.
Me too.
As well.
I'll raise my hand.
Yeah, is that, I need to get into that connection. I need to touch somebody. I need to have those hugs. But if I'm coming from a place of fullness, then it's not going to be me being the ravenous wolf trying to grab hold of somebody to hug them and get my needs met. It's going to be, hey, can we share a hug? Because I want to share my energy with you, not expect you to fill me up because I'm so empty. And it's so important. It's so, so important that we remember, like, the more that we share those hugs, that's when the chemicals get released. If I'm coming from a totally needy space and I just grab onto you and I hug you, you may not feel comfortable. You may not have all those feel good things. You may be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Those brain chemicals do not get released in that sense. Then we're going into a different place in our minds. We're going into scarcity. We're going into fear. We're going into take care of me mode. That's not the time when those get released. Then you're dealing with adrenaline and your adrenals kick in and you have all of that stuff happening, which is not what we want to happen. We want to come in and share our energy together, bring it together, share from a place of fullness. The more full I am, the more present I can be with you, the more that we can have a beautiful connection and a beautiful hug that releases those yummy chemicals that makes us feel good.
I totally agree. But what I've noticed since the lockdown, I already knew this from before, but a couple of clients have said that, and I've seen it online. A lot of, and we know about it, we read about it constantly, it's talked about it. A lot of women are just quite ashamed to take care of themselves. For me, that's primal. It's self-care, pleasuring yourself. It goes like at the top of my list of what am I going to do, because what I get out of it is just the best. But so many women, like, I don't want to do this, or they don't even know themselves. And I always say to them, I said, but if you don't take care of you and you know what gets you going, how can you expect the person that you're with to be able to satisfy you? And so that's where I am coming with this podcast, to tell women, yes, there is a tantric way, and a sexual energy. There's also to make them feel comfortable that taking care of themselves is primordial.
Right. And I think that that's why I like to start with baby steps and just start in the very beginning, like even to touch your own hand. I talk about different modalities of touch. So there's several different modalities of touch. There's just stillness, and stillness, especially for women, we thrive in stillness. Just bringing our hands together, or, if we're working with a partner, just holding in that hug of stillness, not the rubbing, not the moving around. And this is where men get so confused, because men think they've got to do something all the time. So they've got to be rubbing, they've got to be this, they've got to be patting, all of these things. And we're like, can you just stay still? And they think they're staying still, but they're not. It's so funny. But when we as women are really needing that comfort and that nurturing, it's usually in stillness that we're getting it. So I help women to learn this, and men, find your stillness. If that means hugging yourself, just wrap your arms around yourself for a moment and take some nice deep breaths, hold yourself and stay in stillness. Feel it. Allow yourself to feel the energy flow through your body. Now, not everybody is attuned with energy, so that's another piece, another layer of this practice. And so what I've come up with is what I love to call loving myself awake. And it's funny because most people are like, oh my God, you're masturbating every day. And I'm like, well, sometimes I am, but it's not always about that. What loving touch, loving myself, so I'm bringing it to myself, from me to me, and awake by meaning that I'm awakening to the sensations of my own touch. So there's a couple things going. I'm touching with my hand, right? So then there's the sensations of giving touch, and then I'm receiving, let's say, with my arm. And so there's sensations that I'm get from the receiving part. And so really getting to learn about how those two modalities combine and come together is such a powerful experience. We're so quick and we want to be like, let's be productive and let's do this. And this is not that practice. This is a practice and a technique of tapping into my energy, bringing love and gratitude into my heart. And I'll talk about this just a little bit more, but bringing love and gratitude into my heart, sending it out my arm and receiving it in a part of my body, which could be my foot, could be my leg. So what I like, and this is before the lockdown and all the things, I always teach all my students loving myself awake. So I say when you wake up, and it doesn't always have to be when you wake up, but I like it when I wake up. So when I first wake up, number one, I'm always like loving my bed, because my bed is just, I have bamboo sheets, they're soft, and it's this other bed, it's all this. And I'm like, oh my God, I love my bed. And I breathe that love right into my heart. Like I just take a big sip. Oh God, it feels so good. And then the gratitude starts flowing through, and I really connect with that. So when you first learn this, it's a practice. It's like anything else. I have to train myself to get into the love and gratitude. And it's so nice that like I don't have to wake up to an alarm. I've never been a person that woke up to an alarm. If I know I have to be up at 6 o'clock, I wake up in time to be up at 6 o'clock. That's me. I think that if you are a person that needs an alarm, to have a gentle alarm to bring you into softly awakening, so that when you wake up and you could go, oh, I'm awake. Oh, it's another beautiful day. Take that breath, breathe it, and focus. This is where it really comes in of need to bring my attention here. And I'm doing this. I'm training myself for this. Breathe love and compassion and gratitude into my heart. So I breathe that in. And I just hold my own heart space for a few moments before I start the practice. And then as I breathe in, I start noticing, if you're an energetic person, it feels like my heart opens and expands. And then as I exhale, I send it down my right arm down into my hand. And now my hand becomes the conduit that's going to give energy. Now, this is another thing that each individual person gets to learn. Most people that are right-handed give through their right hand and receive through their left. Some people that are left-handed, it's the reverse. They receive through their left and give through their right, but not everybody. So it's something that each individual gets to learn about, and it's important that you learn those things, because that for the energy flow piece. But anyway, for me, because I'm right-handed and I'll talk like that, know that you can always experience it however it experiences and flows for you is perfectly fine. But I breathe that in, and then when I send that love and gratitude and compassion out my right hand, I touch my leg. I like to start with my feet, and I will come into a place, it tends to be my feet like to be massaged. So I'll do a kneading kind of touch. Remember, I mentioned different modalities of touch. So this is a modality of kneading. It's that deep kneading into my foot. And I just notice any places that are like, ooh, that's a sore spot, or ooh, that feels really good, yum. And I breathe more into that, because I want to bring awakening in. I want to awaken up my nerve endings in my foot, for example. I want to actually awaken the nerve endings in my whole body. So this is how I start. Now, this can be a 2 to 3 minute practice. This can be a 20-minute practice. This can be whatever it is for you as your day is. But I like to, right now I'm spending a little bit more time with myself, because I have the time and I have all this extra stuff. And I do it several times during the day because I need touch. So from my foot, I move up to my ankle. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I thank my body parts for all that they do. I mean, think about what your body does for you. It's amazing. These feet carry me around all day long. Good gosh. They're so amazing. Like, the bone structure, the whole, the muscular structure, all of it. It's like, wow, you know? So be in amazement and awe in the body, and then move up my leg. Same thing now. I may change the modality to a stroke or a light scratch, or even a heavier scratch if I'm feeling that. Maybe it's tapping, because I want, again, to bring more sensation into that part of my body, into the skin right there, so that these nerve endings are waking up. This is a great thing for everybody to do. This is a way for us to come into connection with our body and bring more awareness into the body. What's going on in my body? What's happening in my knee right now?
So
pay attention.
Sorry to cut you. So basically you do that while you're in bed.
While I'm in bed. Yep.
Okay.
I bring that one leg up and I stroke it and I touch it and I go all the way up into my thigh, into my hip, over my butt. And then I come into my groin area and I go over my genitals. I go over that space and maybe I play with it a little bit. My yoni. In Tantra, we say yoni. It's a Sanskrit word for the whole vulva area. And I like yoni. Yoni is a nice word that I like to use. Other people use other words. Yeah, other people use other words. And that's the thing that I look at too, is that yes, there's neurolinguistics that we look at different types of languaging, and yoni has the Sanskrit terms. I love the translation of sacred space, that my yoni is my sacred space and it's my temple and all that. So I may go over it, but I may choose to just do a quick going over, or a little kneading in the labia, or something of that nature. Maybe I'm noticing my pubic hair because, yeah, I haven't shaved during this whole thing. And, yeah. Okay.
We're all different. We all like different things. Most of us, you know, as we are locked down, we're like, well, if my pubic hair is not bothering me and I'm happy with it, I'll have a 70 bush, you know. Some people will go for that, and actually the 70 bush is back in fashion apparently. But, you know, at the end of the day, is what excites you, hair or no hair. As long as it suits you, then who cares?
Right. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to discover more of that. You know, I've actually let the hair on my legs grow as well. And I'm noticing when I do my loving myself awake, it's like, wow, I'm not even touching the skin. I'm just going right over the top part, and the hairs are moving on my skin. And what an exquisite sensation that is. I mean, it's amazing. So I'm playing with things right now. I'm learning more about me, and this is an opportunity for all of us to learn about ourselves. It's taking that deep breath. It's really feeling the love and compassion in my heart, sending it out my arms, to going into my body as I touch with gratitude, and taking the time to be super present, because that's another piece of what we do in tantric experiences. Really, if it boils down to, for me, if you say tantra, the main key things are, am I present? Am I breathing? Can I feel energy? And do I have love and gratitude in this moment for what's happening? And that can happen anywhere. That's what I love about Tantra, is Tantra means that I find spirit in everything that I do. And in order for me to do that, I have to be present. I have to be breathing nice and deeply, and I have to be feeling that energetic exchange that happens in the world. So back to this touch. So I come back and I go down the other leg, and I come up the other leg, whatever I feel like doing. There's no right or wrong in this. It's just just feel. And my thought is, or goal, if you will, oftentimes in Tantra, we have no goal, and that's not true. There's always a goal in everything that we're doing. My goal is to touch myself with love and gratitude, but I want to bring that, again, my goal is to touch every single bit of the skin on my body, because when I do that, I bring those nerve endings, I awaken them, hence loving myself awake. I'm awakening this body. I'm also awakening my mind. I'm connecting those neural pathways so that ooh, I notice a sensation. Or maybe I don't, like, wow, that space is a little numb. What's going on there? Maybe I tap on that to bring more aliveness in. I breathe and I think about that channel. There's always, if we think about it, the nerve endings going up into the brain and activating so that the brain becomes awakened. And then there's a neural connection. And we bring it back down like, oh, when I touch here, I feel that. And it's a nanosecond that goes to my brain. I'm being touched and I'm touching, right? Both of those things happening, hello, hello, hello. And then I notice, whoa, what's that sensation? So I'm taking the moment to feel that and allow myself to visualize that neural connection. That's another part of this. Again, in Tantra, that visualization of how energy flows helps me to feel the energy flow. So when people say you have to fake it till you make it, I think that in this case, if I know those neural connections, I can start visualizing, and then pretty soon I start feeling it, you know, and it's amazing what happens. And I think that that's what happens with a lot of women and men as well, but I'm going to talk women for right now. Inside our yonis, oftentimes there's places that are numb. There's things that we're not feeling.
I totally agree. And for me, I had a yoni massage a few years ago. I really wanted one, and I remember reading an article, I can't remember in which magazine, and I thought, ooh, that sounds quite good. But it was not about the sexual part of it. It was the releasing of whatever energy was stuck in me. So I was in Thailand, that didn't happen. So when I came back, actually, luck happened that I met a man who basically houses, which was utterly brilliant. But I remember the first time it happened, when it finished, I was not one of those women that had an orgasm. I basically was very present. And for me, it was not what I was looking for. I was just wanted to be present and enjoy and release whatever energy was coming out of it. And I remember when he left, at that moment when he finished and he left, they had this big ball of bad energy that just came out of my yoni and followed him. And it was just the weirdest thing ever. And then I sat down. I sat down. I was lying down, so I sat up. And I just started crying because the release of all that energy that was blocked in my yoni was too much. It was so emotional. And I thought, oh my God, that was the pathway to me getting into Tantra, if I'm honest. I was like, oh my God, there is more to this.
Right. And what a beautiful experience for you to have and to feel. And that's what a lot of people feel. Yeah. And that's the thing, like these yoni massages that we're doing is really awakening, bringing the awakening into the yoni and into the tissue and into those neural pathways that are there. I remember this, you know, when I had my gynecologist and he was like, I would be like, oh my God, that hurts, that hurts. Every time I would do a pap smear, I'm like, and he's like, you don't have any nerve endings there. You can't hurt.
What?
And I was like, you're insane because I feel it. No, you can't feel it. And I kept thinking, let me scrape the top of your penis and we'll see how you feel. But aside from that, I mean, it hurt me. And what I've come to learn is that Western medicine has often taught us as women that we don't have sensations inside our yonis.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. But do you know how many women have bought that story? So many. And I feel so, I mean, it's so sad that we've been taught that as women as a whole, you know, collectively, that we don't have sensation. And the truth is that we do. We do, and there's nerve endings everywhere in our bodies. So can we come into a place of feeling that? And I think that one of the reasons when we bought that story as the collective women, when we bought the story of there's no sensation there or whatever, that became the place that we put and stuffed our emotions. And we hid our stuff in those spaces. So now that we're doing these yoni massages, when you get touched in that spot, and awakened, those emotions come back to the surface. Now, those emotions could be anything. They're not just traumas. They could be like total happiness.
Yeah.
I know that for me, it was the birth of my daughter, because it was so big and so intense. And she came into the world orgasmically. I mean, I had an orgasmic birth, all of those things. I was 19 years old. I had no idea that that was even possible. It wasn't in my radar. It was just the way that I started breathing. They were telling me to do a certain breath, and I was like, that's wrong. And I'm such a rebel anyway. But I was like, no, that's the wrong breath for me. So I started doing this other breath, which was actually helping me to take the pain and transmute it. And I was switching it into pleasure. I was doing this pleasure loop with these contractions, which is insane if you think about it. I mean, contractions are painful. They're super, super painful. But somehow at 19, I was able to take that through the breath and through this process that I was doing. And I started having more pleasure with these contractions, so that when she actually came, I was in full-blown orgasm. And I remember my husband saying, "Oh, you're coming." And I was like so shocked, like, shut up, don't let the doctor know this, it's wrong, and all these things. But I didn't have time to be in shame and guilt in that moment. I had a moment of like, shut up, I don't want the doctor to know.
Or you pushing out a baby, you know, it's like,
but then who cares? Yeah, then in that moment, I was like, I don't care. And
whatever.
So, so these big waves of orgasm were coming as she was being born. And then after she came, of course, there's all the oxytocin that flows with all of that and all of those things that happen. But even when the placenta came and the afterbirth, there was more contractions, and I just went right back into that breath. And I had these, the afterbirth came, the placenta came again, orgasmically. It was so pleasurable, and it was such a big pleasure thing. And I stored it inside my yoni. So years later, when I had a yoni massage and a sacred spot massage, and when we went in there and he touched that spot, oh my God, all that came back. That the orgasm from her birthing, the cervical orgasm, that I've never had that again. That memory came back, and all of these things were just flooding my brain. And when we have those things happen, those chemicals get released again. So whether it be trauma or bliss or whatever it is that you're experiencing, those chemicals get released because our minds are so powerful, and we have memories. Those memories trigger these experiences in our cells. Our cells don't know the difference between a memory and whether it's happening right now. So those blissful things for me came back, and I was in this high, like I just had a baby. And it was, you know, in some ways, I mean, it was really cool, but then there was a moment like, it's like, where's my baby? And having to come back into present, going, no, I didn't just have a baby. I just had a memory of having the baby. And luckily I was with some really amazing people that were able to help me through those processes. That's why yoni massage for me, when I talk about it, it's like, yeah, make sure that you do it with somebody who knows what they're doing and can hold space for you. Because when these things come up like this, I had no idea that was going to happen. I had no idea I'd go into this state of, you know, like, where's my baby? And really feeling like I just had a baby. Where's my baby? Give me my baby. Because I was in this place. And it was frightening in some ways. And luckily I had somebody there that could help me be, no, that's a memory. Right now, this is where we're at. We're right here, right now. And so that's what's amazing about this touch. And again, when we come back to loving myself awake, when we start doing this touch, I mean, not only do we hide stuff in our yonis as women, but we hide stuff all over our bodies. It's like, it's amazing where we put these little memory things into our bodies. Like, oh, I'll come back to that later. And I push it down into my knee or something. And then when I'm touching my knee, all of a sudden I'm crying. What's that? Why am I crying? This is crazy. But it's not crazy. What it is that I put, you know, somehow stored a memory there. So let that memory come. Feel the sensations. Notice what it is. That's why it's loving myself awake, because I'm awakening these sensations. And I want to be present. I want to be in this present moment. And yeah, maybe this was a totally blissful thing that I put into my knee, but it's not something that's happening right now. So let's feel it so we can get that emotion out, and then go into the next wave of being present with it. Oh, how does my knee feel now? And be in that. It's a time for you to connect with yourself and be in wonder and be in awe of the body and be in this beautiful place. Now for women, well, for everybody, not just women, but also noticing things in your body, like, ooh, I didn't notice that little spot. What is that? And maybe it's a bite, or maybe it's a little fatty, I have a fatty tissue thing going on in my leg, which I was like, ooh, what's that? And going, oh, well, I love you too. And what are you doing there? Noticing little things like that and finding the place to acknowledge them, to honor them. And what is this? What is this for me? So I think about breasts, and when we're doing breast exams and we're really doing those self breast exams, what if I touch my breast with total love? Because I think that that's one of the things that has been going on in the world, is that many times it comes back to that place. These men sometimes, or women, come at us, come to our breasts in such a place of need, and they're just taking, so they grab at it. My friend, this is a funny little thing, but my one friend said, this guy treated my breast like it was a hamburger. He was just like, squishing down on it. And I thought, oh my gosh.
I think we've all been there, more or less.
Right, because that person is so hungry for touch, and so hungry to touch, that they don't know the ways to touch in a way that we're sharing touch and not
loving.
Taking. Yeah, loving and doing this. Coming at a breast like it's a hamburger is probably not the best way to do it, but yet we've seen it time and time again. So again, how can we as individuals give ourselves the touch? This is how. And this allows me, if I'm playing with those modalities of touch, like, do I like tapping? Do I like scratching? Do I like this? Do I like that? And some people I know, like, I'm not a very ticklish person. So when people try to tickle me, it doesn't work very well. It's not fun for me. Yeah, I'm not enjoying it at all. And I'm like, really, I'm not ticklish.
I enjoy it, but I'm ticklish.
Yeah. And so, but you know that about yourself. And I know for me, one of the things that, and it's funny, but I don't use a vibrator. I've never really liked vibration on my clitoris. And so vibration it's too powerful, and it actually, it's too much, and I don't like it. It hurts. And so what I've really learned about myself is that I don't like my clitoris to be touched until I'm aroused at like a level 8. If I'm going on a scale from 1 to 10, I want to be around a level 8 before someone touches my clitoris. And if I can tell my lover that prior to us engaging, and they're listening, then we have a much better experience, sexual experience, than if they go straight for my clit. Because if they go straight for my clitoris, I'm not happy. I'm not a happy person.
It can hurt.
It can hurt, and what it does is, like, I may be totally turned on, and and
off as a woman, if someone is going for your clit, you just go like, please get off me. Because as we've mentioned this before when we talked prior to this podcast, is that the biggest sexual organ in a woman is the brain.
Absolutely.
So
in a man too.
Yeah, but especially women. And so basically, if this hasn't been properly toyed and aroused, then we're just laying there in bed and like, you know what? This is not working for me. You haven't played with my biggest organ. So there is no way that going on my clit is going to work for me tonight.
Right. And that's where I tell women and men, everybody, I am the one that is responsible for my orgasm and my arousal. So if I am going to have a sexual experience with somebody, I'm going to do a loving myself awake practice maybe before, because I want to start the juices rolling. I'm going to do some of that breath work. I'm going to excite myself and get myself revved up, especially if I know it's happening. Now, sometimes we have those moments when we come together and it's like, ooh, something else is going on.
Exactly.
And it's getting activated. The brain is getting activated. So when my brain is activated and my body isn't physically activated yet, but my brain is starting to go, and somebody touches my clit and it hurts, that part gets shut down in my brain. So that doesn't work for me. But I have other things that I really love. So I love to have the conversation with my lovers, is that, you know what, if you do this and this and this, we're going to have a really good experience. And if you touch my clit too early, it tends to shut me down. So I want you to be aware of that so that we can have amazing sexual experience by doing these things.
And that's
This is what I know about my body.
Communication is key, and I keep telling that to all my clients. It's like, when people come to me, as a happiness coach, they come and they say, well, I'm not happy. So we go through all the list, okay, so let's see where do you think you're not happy? And most of the time their sexual life is a big part of it, and they don't realize. They think they're having okay sex, or actually they're having bad sex. And then we really need to talk about this. Are you talking to each other? And often they just look at me like horrified. What do you mean talk? I'm like, you've got to talk about your wants, your needs, how you like to be touched. And this is when I start talking about being touched, and they look at me like, I said, do you play with yourself? And they're horrified, some of them. They go like, no. I was like, well, how do you want? That's what I said earlier. How do you want that person to satisfy you and give you the love and touch that you need if you don't know how it works for you? And I'm trying to encourage women, not to feel ashamed about playing with themselves and touching themselves. And that's why I want to talk to you, because if you just start with your hand and your arm, then slowly you get there, that you understand that, well, I've also got to play with my yoni, and get the juices flowing.
Right. And my breast and I think you and I talked about our necks.
Yes.
And how sensual and sexual the neck is.
Oh, God.
Take a moment with your neck. I love my neck. So I touch my neck often, and I do it gently. Sometimes I have a kink in my neck, so I'll rub that out. But usually if I'm rubbing a kink out, pretty soon it becomes a very sensual touch. And pretty soon I'm like, whoa, hello, here we go. My hair is super sensual. I love my hair to be stroked out. And so those are the easy beginner steps that we start taking to find our way to pleasure in the body. Pleasure in the body helps us to expand and open the sexual center, the second chakra. And when we open that, yes, that's our sexual center. It's our creative life force center. This is where our creative juices come from. Exactly. This is what gives me that energy to go out into the world and bring more of me out, and to play my guitar, or I try to draw. I'm not the best artist, but I do draw, and it's coming from my sexual energy, my creative life force energy. So bringing that to the surface, realizing what that is, activating those parts of my brain, enable me to be more creative. If I'm going to go into a writing, like I want to write whatever I'm writing, an article or something like that, you betcha I'm going to wake up my body a little bit. And that doesn't always mean in my yoni. It could be my neck. If I'm in an interview or something and I'm being filmed, I'm not going to go into my yoni and do that right in front of everybody. For the most part, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, no. But I may touch my neck and just go, ooh, sensuality. Breathe that in. Whew. Okay. And then as soon as I do that, like just now I did that, my nipples, bam, like that. Because I've trained my body that when I'm there to start activating that sexual energy, start activating that juice. And just because my nipples get hard and they tingle doesn't necessarily mean that I want to have sex. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to go masturbate right now or self-pleasure right now. But it does mean I can take that energy and use it for whatever I want to create today. Or to vacuum. Isn't it much better to vacuum with a juiciness to you and loving it than thinking of it as a drudgery and, oh God, I got to get this chore done? Or do I come at it from like, ooh, this is exciting. Feel the vibration in that handle. You know, I mean, we can do this with anything in our lives. This is how we live an orgasmic, blissful life, is by first bringing in the awareness into my body, bringing the awareness in with everything that I do. The more I do that practice, the better I get at it. When I look out at the tree, you know, I'm looking out on my deck and I see that tree, I can see a vibration in the tree. And it's like, it's life. That's life. And life is so fantastic. What a beautiful
energy.
Oh my God, everything is energy and it's so powerful. So if you want to live an orgasmic, blissful life, start with loving yourself awake. I mean, come in, touch yourself, pay attention, bring love and compassion, gratitude into your heart. Touch yourself from a place of love and gratitude, compassion, presence. Presence is so important. We're doing this, with the podcast, and I'm kind of touching my leg and stuff, and I'm not being as present with my leg as because I'm doing this. So when I'm doing the practice, I don't want to have distractions. I want to focus on what I'm doing. I want to focus on the beauty in my knee right now, or my leg, or whatever I'm focusing on. Taking a moment to go, wow, do I like this kind of touch today, or do I like a scratchy touch? And being willing to expand and, do other modalities, scratching, tapping, stillness. Stillness is so important, because in stillness, there's an energy flow. And in stillness, I can feel that energy flow even more. And in stillness, I can go deeper. And so for me, stillness is so vitally important. But to waken up those pieces first. So maybe I need to do a little tapping or a little scratching or movement or whatever it is for you, that gentle caress, or just going right over the top of your arm, above your skin where the hairs are, and feel what it feels like to just touch the hair and how that sensation translates into the body. Powerful, powerful medicine. And we have it right here. We have it right here at our disposal 24/7. How often are you doing it?
And that's the thing. People have lost that because of so much stuff. I'm busy. Well, that's the bullshit excuse that everybody gives. I am busy. But like there is a certain pride in trying to shame other people because they aren't busy. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I could be sitting on my sofa, or I'm being in my bed taking care of me. And maybe you don't call that busy, but basically I am taking care of me, and that is my busy schedule. Okay, so maybe I'm not running the world or anything like that, but if you don't understand yourself, then and you don't take care of yourself, you've got nothing else to give to the world. And
exactly.
And all that energy that we have, and because I find for me, when I started getting into tantric sex, it was about getting the energy, the sexual energy, but the positive sexual energy, because sexual energy also, often people see it as, oh, there's a wolf coming, and basically they just want to eat you up. And it's like, this is not about that. There's the whole breathing, the whole touching, the whole connecting, especially when you're with a partner. The connection of the breath is just blows your mind. And I'm sure we'll do another podcast on that, because I really want to talk about it. Yeah. But it is that important. And for me, it starts, and that's why, especially at the moment with us being locked down, and especially for the single people living by themselves, of being able to take care of themselves in a loving and nurturing way. There is such beauty in that.
There's so much beauty in that, and I love that so much. And coming back out of the resistance of, I can only get this with another person, being open to changing that story, being open to having a different story, that you get to feel these sensations. We talk about this a lot. As coaches, we'll talk about, you get your needs met first. Like, you take care of yourself before you do this. Don't look for those things outside of yourself. And when it comes to touch, it's the same thing. We need to be able to receive this within ourselves, for ourselves, and then we can share it with another person. And then I'm able to share in such a way that people can really feel me.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because all of this is, I compare self-care to wine. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because it's a solitary pleasure, okay? But you need at one point to share the experience. So once you've, drank that first sip, you get all the flavors and everything. And so for me, self-care is exactly the same thing. You get your taste, you get your touch, you see how it works for you. And then whatever you've learned about yourself, you're able to fully share it like a glass of wine with that other person, and share and talk about the experience. So that's why I often compare wine.
Absolutely. Gorgeous. I love it. And it's so true. It's so true. Take time with yourself. Enjoy each step. Enjoy those moments, and find your bliss in every part of you. Like, could you have an orgasm in your toe? Sure. Why not? That's the whole thing. Okay, cool. I want to learn how to do that. And I'm going to start playing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to start exploring. And I'm going to start breathing and doing these things. This is what, like I said before, Tantra for me really is finding God in everything that I do. Finding bliss, finding that space of like, oh, this is it. This is really, really it. This is what my life is about right now, in this very moment.
For me, it's all about beauty, however shape and form it comes, because we've got a tendency to forget that we have a lot of beauty in our life. Beauty starts in us. If we're unable to express it, then I don't think we're able to appreciate it when it comes from the outside.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. So it comes back to that thing. Bring it to yourself. Feel it in yourself. And come from a place, give yourself that touch. Do it all the time. I mean, how many times do we touch our face? There's a big study on this, right? With this thing, like everybody, and now we're going, don't touch your face. But okay, in your home where you're safe, you've washed your hands, touch your face. You touch your body all the time. And are you noticing it, or is this mindless? Bring your awareness into it. Like, feel. We came into these bodies with all these sensations so that we could have these experiences. Let's do it. Let's not numb out on it. Let's not take it for granted. Let's honor ourselves. Let's feel ourselves. Let's touch ourselves.
And at the moment, we have the time.
Yeah.
Plenty of time. When people say to me, I am bored, I'm like, say that again? I'm bored. There's so much stuff that you can do. I understand that you can feel lonely and you want to share an experience, whatever that experience is, but that you're bored as well. Read a book or take care of yourself. There are so many different ways of doing that. Lisa, a pleasure to have you on this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing this. I will definitely have you back for some more. And I will talk to you soon.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. I love it. Thank you.
Lisa, as you've heard, loves sharing her Tantra with people around the globe, and she looks forward to sharing this gift with you. She has a pelvic floor course starting on the 15th of August, and ladies, you should definitely join this one if you can. Details on the podcast page and in my Facebook group, The Happy Curator Podcast, where the conversations on all the podcasts take place. Until next time.